I, 26-year-old female, live in a very small town with my dad, 55-year-old male, who's disabled. He can get around on his own. It's just more convenient for us since I'm able to run most of the errands. Anyway, Dad has 2 cars, one has manual shift and the other is automatic. Due to his mobility issues, Dad can't drive the manual, so it's usually me who's driving it. Also, my workplace is 2 hours away from where I live. It's not a massive deal for me. I also have a co-worker, 40-year-old female, who relies on me for the rides, even though it's a 20-minute drive from her home to the workplace. So, I pick her up and drop her off. She doesn't have a car, and public transportation is crappy in our area. And I also don't charge her for rides since I pass her street on my way either way. She just checks the location app and goes out whenever she sees I'm approaching her place. Or sometimes, I park in her driveway. Recently, the manual car wasn't starting, so I had to take the automatic car. It's a really large SUV, and I'm not very comfortable with driving it. I've been driving the manual car since high school, and it's a super tiny coupe, so I'm used to smaller cars. It was literally my first time ever driving another car. Also, the manual car is an import, and it's right-hand drive, RHD, so my perception is slightly off when I drive a normal car. So, she asked me to go in her driveway, and since I was driving the larger car, I messed up and accidentally hit the lawn with 2 of the wheels because I'm used to sitting on another side and because the automatic car is wider than the manual one. Her driveway is super narrow, and as I said, I'm not familiar with driving huge cars, so it was a mess up on my end. Anyway, she saw the tire tracks on her lawn and was really pissed. She yelled at me, saying that if I can't go in the driveway without hitting the lawn, I should get my license revoked. I explained that I couldn't take my car because it broke. She said that, in this case, I had to ask my dad to drive me to work. I got pissed because it was an unreasonable demand. First of all, my dad is disabled. Second, he wouldn't be super thrilled about spending 4 hours behind the wheel just to take me to work and back. So the next day I texted her, I won't be giving her rides anymore. I still drive the automatic car, because in the manual car, a part broke and it needs to be delivered from overseas, so it takes time. I won't deny that maybe it was an overreaction on my part, but I feel hurt by her comment, and also, I don't want to go in her driveway again, hit the lawn, and get yelled at again. I'm not losing anything if I refuse to give her rides, and I feel like she should have been more grateful. Anyway, she was angry and called me a witch. Our other co-worker said I'm a jerk because the 40-year-old female really needs the rides. Now I think whether I was really a jerk. The 40-year-old female has a wild temper, so she probably didn't mean what she said. But it was still hurtful anyway. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Doesn't she have any sense of self-awareness? You gave her free rides to and from work. You basically saved her from a whole lot of fare and inconvenience in riding public transportation. There's a proper way of addressing someone's mistake, and shouting at them is not it. Don't give her free rides anymore. Even if she apologizes, she's just going to think that she can just walk all over you and just apologize again because you forgave her. Comment 2. No, not the idiot. I hate when people say other people have a bad temper and they didn't mean it. You're an adult, control yourself. I think it's okay to be mad about the marks on the lawn, but instead of yelling and insulting you, she could have said that she will come out of her driveway next time. You're doing her a huge favor, and she's being ungrateful. If your colleague is concerned about that, she should pick her up. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been 3 months since I last posted about the whole car situation with my coworker. A lot has happened since then, and I think it's time for an update. So, after I stopped giving her rides, things at work became tense. My coworker, let's call her Karen, was giving me the cold shoulder and bad-mouthing me to anyone who would listen. It was a tough time, especially since we work in such a close-knit environment. I tried to keep my head down and focus on my job, but it was hard not to feel the strain. Now, let me give you a bit of history about Karen and me. We've been working together for about 5 years now, and we've had our ups and downs. She's always been a bit hot-headed, and I've always been the one to try and smooth things over. We used to be pretty close, grabbing lunch together and covering for each other when needed. But ever since the car incident, things had never been the same. One day, about a month after I stopped giving her rides, Karen approached me. She looked different, less angry, and more defeated. She apologized for her outburst and explained that she had been under a lot of stress at home. Her mother, who lived with her, had been ill, and without the rides, it was harder for her to manage everything. I felt a pang of guilt. remembering the times my dad needed extra help when his disability made things tough. We talked it out, and I learned that Karen had been trying to save up for a car, but with her mom's medical bills, it was nearly impossible. I understood her frustration, but I also needed her to understand that my dad's needs and my comfort with driving the SUV were important too. After a few more conversations, we came to a compromise. Karen would start contributing to the gas money, and in return, I would pick her up from a more convenient location that didn't require me to navigate her narrow driveway. This way, I could avoid any potential lawn disasters, and she could still get to work. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was something we could both live with. Things were going smoothly until last week when the unexpected happened. My dad, who had been doing pretty well, took a fall and needed more help around the house. I was overwhelmed, juggling work, caring for him, and now the added stress of driving the SUV I still wasn't comfortable with. Karen noticed the change in me and offered to help. She started taking over some of the errands I usually ran for my dad on her days off. It was a surprising turn of events, considering our rocky past. I guess the whole situation made her see things from my perspective. Just when I thought things were settling down, another shock came my way. The part for the manual car finally arrived from overseas, and I was ecstatic. I took it to the mechanic, eager to get back to driving the car I was familiar with. But when I got there, I found out that the mechanic had made a mistake with the order, and the part didn't fit. I was back to square one, and the tension between Karen and me threatened to resurface. I was frustrated, and I could tell Karen was worried that our arrangement would fall apart. But instead of letting the setback derail us, we sat down and had a heart-to-heart. Karen admitted that she had taken my help for granted and that she was genuinely sorry for how she had treated me. I acknowledged that I could have been more understanding of her situation from the start. We agreed to continue our current arrangement, with Karen helping out with my dad as a way to show her appreciation. The past 3 months have been a journey of emotions and challenges, but through it all, Karen and I have managed to find a middle ground. We've learned to communicate better and to see things from each other's point of view. It's not always easy, but we're making it work. My brother blew up at me for exposing his cheating. He played the victim, but the wedding photos will show. I, 28-year-old female, was invited to my cousin's wedding. It's pretty a big deal in my family because Jake, 28-year-old male, is the first in my family to get married. However, I rejected the invite because his fiancée doesn't like me. When we first met, she kinda just glared at me. At first, I thought it was just because she might be awkward meeting new people, or it's because Amy, 30-year-old female, is from abroad. But I think she just genuinely doesn't like me. She always makes underhanded comments about me, whether it's about me being a single mom, dropping out of college and going back, or even just what I eat. She makes these weird comments that I just brush off. Some examples of this during this past week. At a family party, I was talking about my son having a parent event for his soccer club. I said I was a bit nervous participating, and Amy told me, "Well, it's your fault the dad isn't in the picture to do so." I gained a lot of weight recently, 30 pounds, and Amy said I shouldn't be ordering anything but soups and salads for the good of myself while at a restaurant. Early this week, Jake and Amy came over to invite my family and me to the wedding. After they left, my sister tells me that she was asked to be a bridesmaid by Amy. I didn't think anything of it and said congrats. But when my sister asked me if I was one, I said no. She looked surprised. Apparently, Amy and Jake had all their siblings and cousins to be bridesmaids and groomsmen. I didn't know, and I was honestly a little sad, but I just said it's whatever. My sister was mad on my behalf and went to complain to my parents and aunts. Long story short, this has started a fight between Jake, Amy, and my family. Jake's mom was really angry that I wasn't part of the bridal party, but Jake and Amy don't want me to be a bridesmaid because I'm not a traditional woman. I thought it was getting too much, so I just decided that I shouldn't go. Am I sad? Yeah, I'll feel left out, but it's not my wedding, and I don't want to fight with Jake or Amy about it. My family doesn't want to go anymore, but I said I'll be fine. They can go enjoy the wedding. Amy did reach out to me yesterday about it. She just said, "Sorry, I didn't pick you as a bridesmaid because you don't match my image. I want a traditional wedding, and you aren't that." Then she went on about how I would make the wedding pictures uneven. I just responded, "I'm not going anymore. I don't need your reasons on whatever you think." I thought this would make Amy happy, but she wasn't. She angrily texted in all caps, "Fuck you. I don't even know why I considered inviting you. You should be regretting not coming." I'm not sure how to feel, but I'm not alone. I was thinking of just going to the beach with my son that day, just so I can distract myself. But my whole family all told me I should go to the wedding. I don't really feel welcome, and Jake hasn't told me anything. But am I the jerk for letting this argument with the bride affect my presence at her wedding? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Are you close with Jake? Would you attend if he were marrying anyone else? I'd attend, just to piss her off and make it clear you are there to celebrate with Jake, not her. I love how your family has your back. This is all her and nothing to do with you. If you choose the beach for the day with your son, which sounds amazing as a beach lover, I wish you warm weather and no jellyfish. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Amy is mad because she isn't getting the reaction out of you that she wants. And it backfired on her that your family called her out for her BS. Amy is toxic AF for her comments to you. Go enjoy your day. She doesn't deserve you at her wedding. If the family doesn't go, I hope it's because of her being a nasty person in her actions overall, and not just the exclusion of the wedding party. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a chaotic week, and I've got some updates for you. So, after Amy's outburst over text, things got even more heated. My mom, who's always been the peacemaker, tried to smooth things over. She invited Jake and Amy over for dinner, hoping to clear the air. I wasn't thrilled, but I agreed to show up. Dinner started off tense. Amy was giving me the cold shoulder, and Jake seemed uncomfortable. My mom, bless her heart, kept trying to steer the conversation to neutral topics. But then, out of nowhere, Amy brought up the bridesmaid issue again. She said she wanted a picture-perfect base wedding, and that my presence would somehow ruin that. I was about to walk out when Jake finally spoke up. He admitted that he wanted me in the wedding party, but Amy was adamant I wasn't the right fit. That's when my sister, who's never been one to hold her tongue, called Amy out for being shallow and mean. The argument escalated, and Amy stormed out with Jake trailing behind her. The next day, my aunt, who's always been more like a second mom to me, told me she had a chat with Jake. She reminded him of how close we were growing up, playing video games and getting into all sorts of mischief. Jake had always been my ally, especially when I got pregnant at 20 and the father bailed. He was the one who helped me pick up the pieces. Feeling nostalgic, I dug up some old photos of Jake and me. I sent him one where we were both covered in mud after a failed attempt to build a treehouse. I included a note saying, "Remember when we didn't care about being picture perfect?" Jake replied with a long text. He confessed that he missed our friendship and that he was under a lot of pressure from Amy's family to have a certain type of wedding. He said he was sorry for not standing up for me. Meanwhile, my son, who's been my rock, noticed I was upset. He made me a card that said, "You're the best mom and you're perfect to me." It was a simple gesture, but it meant the world to me. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my phone buzzed with a message from Amy. She wanted to meet up, just the two of us. I was wary, but I agreed, thinking maybe she wanted to apologize. We met at a local coffee shop, and Amy was already there, looking nervous. She started by saying she was stressed about the wedding and took it out on me. But then, she dropped a bombshell. She confessed that she was intimidated by me. She said that seeing how I handled being a single mom with such grace made her feel insecure about stepping into the role of a stepmom to Jake's niece and nephew from his older brother's previous marriage. I was stunned. All this time, her jabs and comments were because she felt like she couldn't measure up. I didn't know what to say. Before I could process that, Amy's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and excused herself to take the call. That's when I noticed her phone was left open to a text conversation with someone named Mark. Curiosity got the better of me, and I couldn't help but glance at the screen. The texts were flirty, with Mark talking about how he couldn't wait to see Amy again, and how their last encounter was mind-blowing. My heart raced as I realized Amy was having an affair. Amy came back, oblivious to my discovery. She continued to talk about wanting to make amends, but I was barely listening. I was trying to decide what to do with this information. As I left the coffee shop, my mind was racing. Should I tell Jake? Would he believe me? And what about the wedding? My family was still divided on whether to attend. Brother rages at my New Year's feast offer, forgetting his huge debt. Parents tried to help, but his toxic outburst revealed the truth. A bit of quick background. My older brother, his wife, my parents, and my younger sister live in the same city. I live in another city far away due to work, but I'll be going back home for the holidays. Yay. Another quick addition. My parents aren't exactly the most wealthy, but they get by. I send money to my parents every month as well. My brother doesn't make as much money as I do, but he makes good enough money to not be considered poor. However, he often makes bad choices with money, spending a ton on his hobbies, but barely spending money on some necessities. He frequently borrows money from my parents and me for other things. So anyway, I suggested to my parents that we all should go to this really good restaurant in our city on NYE. It is a fancy buffet with all the good food. And yes, it is slightly pricey, but not extremely expensive. I told my parents that I would be paying for them, and also my younger sister, she's still in university. I then told my brother about this idea, and he immediately rejected it, saying it's too expensive and how it's a waste of money. He doesn't want to pay a penny for it. I know he can afford this because he has spent tons more on his hobbies. I told him that it would be nice if he joined because my dad really wants to have the family together for dinner. My brother refused and said it's not fair for him because it's too expensive, and he won't pay for it unless I help pay for it as well. I absolutely refused because why would I be paying for my brother and his wife as well? We all have jobs here. My dad found out about this and he was upset because he really wants to have a full family dinner since I only get to come home during the holidays. He then offered to pay for my brother and his wife, and my mom got angry because she was like, "Why would you do that? He can pay for himself." My brother then got angry at me and told me that I should have just stuck to the original plan that my dad made, which is that we do some kind of potluck at home. I told him this isn't something we do often, and growing up not so wealthy, I'd love to treat our parents once in a while. My brother and his wife were like, "Well, I don't care. We're not going, so you better make your choices." I said, "Okay, I guess you are eating somewhere else then," and proceeded to make a reservation for just the four of us. My brother then called me a huge jerk for splitting the family during NYE when we were supposed to spend time together, and now he has to find somewhere else to be for NYE with his wife. Am I the idiot? Should I have stuck to the original plan so we all can spend time together? Update. My brother and his wife are going to the dinner as well. My dad paid half of it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Your brother sounds exactly like mine, always driving a new vehicle, always wearing expensive clothes and shoes. But God forbid you expect him to pay for himself on an outing because he just doesn't have the money for that. My mom and I spent years covering my brother, and even his sons, way on various family outings and vacations because he couldn't afford to be there, but would throw an adult tantrum if he wasn't invited. We finally got sick of it, and now he isn't invited to anything, and it saves our mom and I a lot of money. Comment 2. Not the idiot. If your brother is spending a lot on hobbies, you need to quit giving him money. If your parents are giving him money, quit giving them money. Pay a bill for them, or buy their groceries, but don't give money. Your brother has become entitled. He wanted you to pay for him and his wife. You created this by handing out money. I know it's out of love, but you created dependency. Your brother doesn't need it. He wants hobbies. He was willing to take money from your parents, your money, pay bills for them, but that's it. Good luck. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a wild week, and I've got quite the update for you all. So after my last post, things took a turn for the dramatic. My brother, who had been so against the NYE dinner, suddenly changed his tune. Turns out, my dad had secretly agreed to pay for half of their meal without telling anyone. I only found out because my mom, who's usually the keeper of secrets, let it slip during one of our phone calls. She was furious, and honestly, so was I. But here's where it gets juicy. My brother's sudden willingness to attend the dinner wasn't just because of my dad's offer. No, it turns out his wife, my sister-in-law, had been pushing him to go. She had always been the social butterfly of the family, and the thought of missing out on a fancy dinner was too much for her to bear. She had been working on my brother behind the scenes, convincing him to accept my dad's offer. Now, my sister, who's still in university, had been looking forward to this dinner as a break from her studies. She's always been the peacemaker in the family, and she tried to smooth things over between everyone. But when she found out about the secret deal, she felt betrayed. She had been scrimping and saving for her own expenses, and here was our brother getting a free ride. The night of the dinner arrived, and tensions were high. We all sat down at the table, and the atmosphere was frosty, to say the least. My parents tried to keep the conversation light, but the elephant in the room was too big to ignore. Halfway through the dinner, my sister couldn't hold it in any longer. She confronted my brother about the money he owed me and my parents. She pointed out how he always had money for his hobbies, but never seemed to have enough when it came to family or paying back his debts. My brother was taken aback, and his wife jumped to his defense, which only made things worse. The argument escalated, and my brother accused me of flaunting my money and making him look bad in front of our parents. He said I was trying to buy their love, which was ridiculous. I reminded him that I was just trying to do something nice for our family, something we rarely got to enjoy growing up. Then, in a moment that left us all stunned, my sister-in-law dropped a bombshell. She admitted that she had been the one to encourage my brother to spend so much on his hobbies, even when they couldn't afford it. She said she wanted to keep up appearances and that she didn't want to look less successful than me. It was a moment of brutal honesty that left my brother looking like he'd been slapped. My dad, who had been quiet the whole time, finally spoke up. He admitted that he shouldn't have offered to pay for my brother and his wife, without discussing it with the rest of us. He apologized for causing more division in the family. The rest of the dinner was eaten in an awkward silence. We all had a lot to think about. My brother and his wife left early, and the rest of us stayed to finish our meal, the taste of the food soured by the night's revelations. As we left the restaurant, my sister and I walked with our parents, who were both quiet and reflective. It was clear that the night had taken a toll on them, and I couldn't help but feel guilty for suggesting the dinner in the first place. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.